Namaste and welcome to this presentation about Indian culture. Namaste is derived from Sanskrit, an ancient language of India, and in common terms it means greetings to you. Let me acquaint you a little bit about the sights and sounds of India before we proceed ahead. Welcome to India virtually. In the next few minutes, you will know more about the Indian culture using these four dimensions of history, current facts, diversity, and on a lighter note. In the end, I have also added some additional resources in the form of links which you can go through for further information. Let's get started with history. History has a huge influence on culture. And so, to understand the Indian culture, we need to know a little bit about India's history. If I would want to summarize Indian history, it would be in these blocks as you can see. Starting with the first block, this was the initial period of human history itself, where one by one discoveries started happening. Use of fire, use of metals for tools, cattle rearing, agriculture, etc. The next highlight was the Indus Valley Civilization. This was roughly 5000 years ago. Indus Valley Civilization was located on the northwestern part of ancient India, on the fertile floodplain of the Indus River, and was the most advanced civilization not only for its time but also for a long time in the future. The name India is also said to have been derived from the Indus River. Their engineering skill was remarkable for that age. It had well-planned cities. The streets were laid out in a perfect grid pattern. Though this idea seems perfectly normal today, it was pretty unusual at that time. This pattern was carried right across in the house plans, paintings, etc. This also included the world's first urban sanitation systems. You can see in the left the image of the plan and houses of the Indus Valley civilization and comparing that to the plan of the New York City. Similarly, in the right, you can see the reconstructed image of the Indus Valley civilization and comparing that with the satellite image of Manhattan, New York. There is so much in common. Archaeological records justify that the Indus civilization showed no evidence of armies, kings, slaves, social conflict, prisons, and other negative traits that we traditionally associate with early civilizations. Thus, the Indus Valley civilization was a meticulously planned, well organized, egalitarian society. There are several theories of how this civilization ended. One says that the river dried up, which slowly led to the downfall, and the other says there was a massive flood which destroyed the civilization. Next period is the emperors and kings' rule in India. Main ones being that of the Maurya Empire and the Gupta Empire. This was also known as the Golden Age of India because of the considerable achievements of Indians in the fields of mathematics, astronomy, science, religion, and philosophy. The decimal numeral system, including the concept of zero, was invented in India during this period. Then there was a period of invasion by Mughals. During the 17th 18th century, India was the world's largest economy. Then came the period of colonization by British, which lasted about 200 years, which also accelerated Western influence on Indian culture. This was followed by India's independence in 1947. Interestingly, according to world history, India has never invaded any other country. Now that we know a little bit about Indian history, let's move on to see how is the current India like. So where is it? Geographically, this is where India is located, in the southern part of Asia. Now coming to some facts. Area-wise, India is 7th largest in the world. Population-wise, it is second with 1.3 billion people. It's the 5th largest economy in the world. It has 28 states and 9 union territories. Population distribution is roughly 65% rural and 35% urban. By the way, India also ranks second worldwide in farm outputs. It has over 300 languages and over 1600 dialects. And India is the world's largest democracy. Okay, now let's move on to the diversity element. Each state has a distinct culture, language, demography, dresses, festivals, etc. We will see details of each one of these. Moving to the first one, that is languages. This is a map showing major languages across different states of India. As you can see, Hindi is spoken in many places, but the dialect will be slightly different. It's quite common for children to pick up minimum 3 to 4 languages as they grow up in India. Next, we move to the climate chart. This is how India is broadly divided if we look at the climate. Temperate means these zones have generally wider temperature ranges throughout the year and more distinct seasonal changes compared to the tropical climates, where the variations are very small. Composite means it is something that displays the characteristics of hot and dry, warm and humid, as well as a little bit of cold. As you can see, India has a mix of all of these climates. In the central part, it is primarily composite. Towards the north, it has a cold climate. It also has some deserts, and it also has tropical climate towards the shores. Coming to cuisine, you can imagine that it has a lot of variety given the diversity in soil, climate, culture, ethnic groups, and occupations. These cuisines are prepared using locally available spices, herbs, vegetables, and fruits. For example, I am from the southern part of India, so the main cuisines there are typically idli, sambar, rasam, pongal, etc. But that doesn't mean that this is something we will get only in the south part of India. Typically in larger towns and in cities, you will get cuisines from all across India. So for example, in the northern city of Delhi, you will get cuisines not only from South India but also from East India, West India, etc. Moving on to music. Here again the folk music varies state-wise. The instruments for the music also varies. One thing that would be common is that these forms are their own way of engaging with the supreme, the divine, apart from creating a sense of bonhomie. For example, Abhangs from the western part of India, that is in Maharashtra, They are in Marathi language, their local language, and they are devotional songs for the Supreme. Moving on to traditional dances, this also varies state-wise. These are very lively and fun, and these are also traditionally meant as an offering to the Supreme. Moving on to traditional dresses or clothing, here too there is a lot of diversity based on the state, the language, the culture. This picture just shows a little snapshot of the different kinds of clothing that are worn traditionally by Indians. And this is even followed today, especially in rural areas or by people from the older generations. For the younger generations or people living in cities, they might dress up in these traditional dresses once in a while, say for family functions or any rituals. Moving on to festivals, here again there are a lot of festivals. There are over 50 festivals that are celebrated every year in India. This picture gives a snapshot of some of the main ones. The bottom right festival is called Diwali, which signifies the victory of light over darkness or knowledge over ignorance. The top right photo is of the festival Holi. This is known as the festival of colors. It's the day to forgive and make peace with everyone around us. Next to that image is the festival of Dasara. Large effigies of a demon called Ravana is burned to ashes, signifying victory of good over evil. That was the day he was killed by Lord Rama. Next to that image, the leftmost image at the top is the festival of Janmashtami, which is celebrated as the birthday of Lord Krishna. Young Krishna was very mischievous. He used to steal and eat butter kept in high earthen pots by his mother by making a human ladder with the help of his friends and breaking the pot to have the butter. This act is recreated even today during Krishna Janmashtami festival. Bottom left image is of the festival of Onam. This is a major festival in the southern state of Kerala, and it is celebrated to honor the kind-hearted and much beloved demon king Mahabali, who is believed to return to Kerala during this period. Lot of food items are prepared, boat races are held, flower rangolis, decorations are made all across. In the middle you find the picture of Raksha Bandhan. This is a celebration of the bond between the brother and the sister. The sister ties this kind of thread over the wrist of the brother, prays for his well-being and gives him sweets, etc., while the brother accepts her offerings and vows to take care of her in times of need. As a token, he also gives a return gift. The image that is there in the bottom center is of Durga Puja. This is a major festival in the eastern state of West Bengal. Durga Puja celebrates the victory of goddess Durga over the demon king Mahishasura. Moving on, yes, there is a lot of diversity in religions too. We have Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Sikhism, Buddhism, Jainism, to name the main ones. Moving on to the spirituality aspect, India has a rich tradition in terms of ancient scriptures like Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, etc. India is also regarded as a land of saints. The saints always preached the messages of righteousness and universal brotherhood. Yoga is mainly known in the West as a practice to keep the body fit. However, it has a deeper meaning and has practices for the body, mind, and spirit. Spirituality, when we say, has nothing to do with religion, which is what it is often confused with. Spirituality means actually acknowledging the source within us. For example, like every light bulb has a source, which is electricity, we too have a source, and spirituality is nothing but paying gratitude to that source. For example, the Namaste that I welcomed you all with, it is not just a greeting. There's a spiritual meaning for the same as well. It is believed that each one of us has a part of that supreme being or soul as our source. And when we bring our palms together, it is a sign of oneness, as we are all spiritually part of the same supreme. By closing our eyes and bowing, it's a sign of deep respect. So, the soul within me is respecting the soul within you. That was all part of our diversity blog. Now, let's move on to a lighter note. We Indians are completely crazy over cricket. For example, there are many instances where people don't even leave their seats. You know why? Because they think in that position India is doing well and winning the match. And yeah, we like to cross the road without looking, as you can see. Yeah, we honk all the time, especially 10 seconds before the red light is about to turn green. We love bargaining and get our money's worth. We also like to jump on and off moving buses and trains. Yeah, of course, when they are in slower speeds. We get married in the biggest, fattest way possible. We love to invite all our friends, relatives, associates, colleagues to our wedding. We like to have exquisite locations, decorations, food, wedding cards, photography, and all of that. We call everyone uncle, auntie. So the reason here is for elders, we do not call them by their first name as a mark of respect. When it comes to marketplaces or offices, this is changed to sir or madam. And yes, we love jugaad. Maybe the closest English word to it would be a hack. We love to use existing resources in innovative ways to satisfy our wants without having to spend extra. I hope you can understand what is going on in the picture. So this person is saving the cost of buying a table by having this hack of having a paper put in the plug socket and using it as a stand to keep his phone while it is getting charged. And we consider these questions as common conversations and not personal. Example, how much do you earn? Are you married? Or do you have kids? That was on a lighter note. And I also have some further resources if you want to know more about India and its culture. Thank you all for your patient hearing, and I hope you got a little bit more insight about India through this video. Thank you so much.